Today, I will go to a backstory about a drilling camp in a place called Muthupilakad in the Shastangota Kizhake Kallada road, and on the drilling site was to the west side of the road. Well, interestingly, this area where we chose for drilling camp for China clay is actually bordered on the west side by the Shastangota Lake or Shastangota Kayal, and on the east side by Muthupilakad. And the piece of land that existed, or the topographic ridge, that was like 300 to 500 feet at the smallest, narrowest space or place. Well, why this was chosen as a drilling camp? Well, for example, for one thing, my geology department, our Directorate of Geology, had acquired a sledge-mounted Darson and Tubero drilling unit, and this was actually kept in the garage for at least 2 years after purchase. And the auditor made a comment about the investment of about 7 or 8 lakhs those days, and the equipment not being put to use. So when I joined the directorate in April last week, after the episode of bus accident and so on and so forth, one of the things Mr. Ayyappan Nair mooted was to take this machine out and use it for exploratory drilling to prove the clay thickness of the clay layer. Well, clay, for example, in the southern districts of Kerala, especially in the Kollam and Thrivikramji districts, is one of the very valuable minerals and mineral deposit, and is actually exploited in many places in Kerala. In the south, near Thrivananthapuram, the English India Clays Limited was working on it, and in Kundara, a government-owned company was doing the exploitation. So this Kundara is actually on the, let us say, on the southern side of the Kallada river. In the Shastangota, the area we chose is on the northern side. Well, the month of May was not ideal for shifting this sled-mounted Larsen and Tubero unit. Well, this unit is, I think, roughly 3 pieces. One air compressor, that is what is mounted on the sled, and then a tripod, including all the drilling rods and pneumatic hose connections, and then another water pump, because water is very essential while drilling, because it cools the drilling rod as well as makes the drilling process easier, faster, and things of that sort. Mechanically, it is an advantage to have a watery medium for the drill rods to penetrate through the stratum that is under drilling. So the policy that the drilling machine has to go out and to be deployed in the field was accepted and approved by the director. And it was told to the geologist Ayyappan Nair, and of course we were waiting for the appropriate time to deploy the set, because by last week of May we had heavy rains, then June also was rainy, July also had some rains, August was fairly okay, Then comes the second phase of rain, what is called the northeast monsoon. So ideally, a sled-mounted rig, for that matter, takes little dry weather for transport. Secondly, the drill site also needs to be dry without rains. So the ideal condition situation was by the month of October. And what was done was, then Ayyappan Nair on himself went to Shastangota, lived in the or stayed in the TB there, and of course then looked around for a site where we can do the drilling. So most people those days were afraid of agreeing to accept their property, as agreeing to allow the department to drill in their property, because there all it is part what is called patta land. In other words, there is no public land. Patta land is the land owned by citizens. So finally, Ayyappan Nair was successful after 2 or 3 visits to get one man, Mr. Thomas, those days a Kerala Congress activist gentleman, and he suddenly agreed without any hesitation that the mine department can start drilling in his property. That is how the Muthupilakad site was chosen. And what about this Muthupilakad site? Well, like I said in a moment ago, the Muthupilakad you reach from what is called Shastangota by car, bus or jeep, whatever, up to Kizhakke Kannada or East Kannada, and there you have we had what is called the river Kannada, and there was no road bridge across. Then so the team was put together, a driller, mechanic, and an assistant to the driller mechanic. That is on the mechanical side. I was the assistant geologist in charge of the drilling operations. And then, of course, Mr. Abu Bakr late, of course, very interesting gentleman, because for him this job is actually secondary. He's fairly rich fellow. He is actually a trader in what is called spices and stuff of that kind. And he will always come to the office only at exactly at 10:30 and leave the office by 4:30. And whether director knows it or not, it is not an issue for Abu Bakr. And then this was a team, and we had several rounds of discussions with Ayyappan Nair, and Ayyappan Nair said, well, Abu Bakr was addressed as Sahib by everyone, because he's Abu Bakr. That is how we address a fellow Muslim gentleman as Sahib, or we don't call them by name. Anyway, because he's our colleague, we have been known to each other, not that but he had been in the department for a long while, and he was, like 50 plus, and he lived somewhere near Nirmangad in a place called Vidura. And of course, I had visited his home once. It's a fairly rich household. You will see only bundles of sacks stored one above the other, because it's all money, pepper and cash. Then what is called arecanut. Whatever he can put his finger on, he will buy, store it, and when the prices are right, when the profit is right, he will sell it off. So finally, this gentleman, Mr. Sahib, had a request to me. Sahib told me that, hey, Thrivikramji, during my entire service, I had gone with several officers to the camp. However, one thing I made sure was every other day evening, I will leave the camp with the permission of the officer in charge. So please keep this in mind. I will come to the site or camping site or work site very regularly. But only thing is, I will take 2 extra holidays other than Sunday and Saturday. And he may be permitted to go And this is actually kind of not only a suggestion, that is what his plan was, that is what he is going to implement, and nobody can stop him from doing that. This kind of hint was there. So finally, we had enough of what our people gathered together, people who are used to loading, unloading, etc. in the compound of the store compound, and then a truck owned by, a private truck actually. This was ferried to, the equipment was ferried to the Muthupilakad roadside, or on your way to Mr. Thomas's home. Well, of course, there, Mr. Thomas had arranged enough of people to get this beast down the truck. And, the truck will not go to his property because he had only a cart track leading from the road to his home. And from there, it was only muscle power and, all the crude mechanisms by which the cylinder-mounted drill main compressor unit was pushed and dragged to the site of drilling. Fine. Then the rest of the things like drill rods as well as the pieces of pipes that will make the tripod, and also the water pump, etc., all the ancillary stuff, that shifting them was very easy. All this happened somewhere along the last week of October. And then the next day on, Ayyappan Nair stayed back. We were all in Shastangota TB. And then the next day morning in the jeep, we were all together in the jeep, and we came to the drill site at around 8 o'clock. Our driller mechanic, I forget his first name, Mr. Nair, anyway, he started the machine. We had all other requirements already in stock, like diesel, grease, oil, etc., etc. And the machine went down very safely, securely, and efficiently, the drilling process. And Ayyappan Nair was there around watching this process of drilling. And my job was, as an assistant geologist, to keep the driller's log. Driller's log is a record of, what is the stratum that was penetrated, and what was the depth, and what was the time also, and the date, of course. So this was done, and then we took a break at around 11 o'clock. And then after the break, of course, Thomas had offered us snacks and tea. And so Thomas's family is a very small family, husband, wife, and 3 children. The eldest is a young man who just finished off high school and then, quit learning or whatever, going to college. And he is Matthew. He was a good company for me, because he was only 5 years younger to me at that point in time. So then we restarted the drilling process. I was in the site. Thomas, of course, provided a stool, etc., a writing table, etc., for me to use while doing the logging. And then by 1 o'clock, we switched off the machine, and Thomas had also arranged a lunch for all of us, including Ayyappan Nair. Ayyappan Nair initially said he wouldn't take lunch, and because he is not in the habit of having a heavy lunch, because Thomas had some kind of beef curry and rice, etc., etc. So Ayyappan Nair said, Vikramji, I am taking leave, and I will come back after 1 week. So the first week was over, and during the first week, what happened was, Mr. Thomas had offered to the drilling team, and me, a place to sleep in their own home. The veranda only, no problem. And he said, sir, you can, Vikramji, sir, you can have, if you like, our lunch here, food here. I said, I already liked anyway. And of course, there was another attraction of, fresh toddy, evening toddy, and the toddy is used to make white villa appam, as it is called, and that most people love to eat it. So I and the drilling team, the mechanic and his assistant, we went to the Shastangota TB, got all our stuff back to Thomas's home. So once the first week was over, in the month of November, first week, occasionally we used to go to Shastangota. I ran into Mr. K.V. Paulos, who I know from my BSc days. I knew from my BSc days as a senior geologist in the Geological Survey of India. I saluted him and asked, "Sir, what brings you over here?" And then this gentleman was very cordial and friendly and a loving person. He told me, "Vikramji, I am doing the bauxite mapping around this area." I said, "Bauxite mapping?" "Yes." Okay, then, of course, these GSI people, those days in the 60s, had their own vehicle for the field work, because that is the only way of doing efficient work. Then I asked immediately the question that, "Did you ever come across any bauxite here, around here?" "No, for the last 4 days we have been roaming about and I could not locate any bauxite occurrence." Then I told immediately to Mr. Paulus, "Sir, if you come to my field camp, what are you doing in the field camp? We have a drilling program for China clay." "Okay, if I came to your drilling camp, what will happen then?" "I will show you something which looks like bauxite or looked like bauxite to me." He was surprised. And then he said, "Yes, I will go with you." Then I said, anyway, it is now 4 o'clock in the evening, we are catching the 4:30 bus and it will be kind of, dark. Or end of the, brilliant day. So why don't you come to us tomorrow? I will tell you how to get to there. Mr. Pavlu said, "No, we will all ride together. We will go to your area. I will drop you off so that the next day I can securely come to your place." The next day he came in. I took him to the shore of the Chittumala Kayal, and there were off-white pebbles and cobbles on the shoreline of the Kayal, which I suspected as bauxite because it was not plastic, no plasticity at all, and as hard as a piece of rock. So Paulus sir took a piece and looked at it and said, "Wow, this is what I was looking for. How did you know that this is bauxite?" I said, "Well, I'm a geologist anyway. I was a good student also. So I had come across somewhere during my reading, this is what bauxite looks like." So then Mr. Paulus left and, we continued our drilling program and in the camp.